Nobody came to my graduation in software engineering. My dad said that was for boys, not girls. 2 weeks later, when I landed a great job in a giant tech company, my mom said my sister needed help finding a job. I answered, "Actually, my office was looking for someone, just not her." The auditorium had been packed with families that Saturday morning in May. I watched parents clutch flowers and siblings wave balloons while I sat alone in my folding chair, adjusting my cap for the 100th time. My phone stayed silent. No messages. No missed calls. Nothing. I had sent them the invitation 3 months earlier. I had called twice to remind them. My dad had laughed the first time, telling me I was wasting money on a degree that would never pay off. My mom had been quieter, but her silence carried the same message. My sister Veronica had rolled her eyes when I mentioned it during our last family dinner. They did not think software engineering was a real accomplishment. They did not think I belonged in technology at all. I walked across that stage alone. I shook hands with the dean alone. I took my diploma and smiled for the photographer alone. The family next to me invited me to join their celebration lunch, but I declined. I drove back to my apartment in Seattle and ate takeout Chinese food while scrolling through social media posts of my classmates with their proud families. That night, I decided something had to change. I was 26 years old and still seeking approval from people who refused to see me. I had spent my entire life trying to prove myself worthy of their attention, and it had gotten me nowhere. My father ran a successful commercial construction company in Portland, and he had always made it clear that technical work was beneath our family. My mother had spent her career in real estate, and she had raised us to value appearance and connections over everything else. Veronica had followed their path perfectly. She had studied business administration, though she had barely passed. She had worked in marketing for a boutique firm for 6 months before getting fired for showing up late too many times. Since then, she had been living at home, trying different jobs that never lasted more than a few weeks. My parents treated her failures as temporary setbacks while treating my successes as lucky accidents. I had been the strange one, the daughter who preferred computers to cocktail parties. I had taught myself to code at 14 using library books and free online courses. I had worked 3 jobs to pay for community college, then transferred to a university program on a partial scholarship. I had graduated with honors and a job offer from Cloud Tech Systems, one of the largest cloud infrastructure companies in the world. The offer letter had arrived 2 days before graduation. Senior Technical Implementation Specialist. $85,000 a year plus benefits. A signing bonus of $10,000. I had cried when I read it, then immediately called my parents to share the news. My father had been in a meeting. My mother had said that was nice, then asked if I could help Veronica update her resume. Veronica had gotten on the phone and complained about how hard it was to find good jobs these days. Nobody had congratulated me. Nobody had asked about the position or the company or what I would be doing. I should have known better than to expect anything different. The following Monday, I started at Cloud Tech Systems. The headquarters occupied 12 floors of a glass tower in downtown Seattle. My team worked on the 8th floor, implementing custom cloud solutions for enterprise clients. My manager, a brilliant woman named Patricia, welcomed me with genuine enthusiasm. My coworkers invited me to lunch and actually listened when I spoke. For the first time in my life, I felt valued for my skills rather than judged for my interests. 2 weeks into the job, my phone rang during lunch. My mother. I almost declined the call, but curiosity won. Her voice was bright, artificially cheerful. She asked how I was settling into my new position. She said she had been telling her friends about my job at such an impressive company. She mentioned that Veronica was still looking for opportunities and wondered if Cloud Tech might have openings. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. They had ignored my graduation. They had dismissed my achievement. Now they wanted favors. I told my mother that the company was indeed hiring. I could hear her excitement building through the phone. Then I added that the positions required specific technical skills and experience that Veronica did not possess. My mother's tone shifted immediately. She said I could put in a good word. She said family helped family, She said Veronica just needed a chance. I thought about that empty chair at graduation. I thought about years of dismissive comments and rolled eyes. I thought about every time they had made me feel less than. I told my mother that I would see what I could do, then ended the call. I had no intention of helping Veronica get a job at Cloud Tech. She had no technical background, no relevant experience, and no work ethic. More importantly, she had never supported me, never believed in me, never bothered to show up when it mattered. But I did not tell my mother that. Not yet. I needed time to think, time to plan, time to decide exactly how I wanted to handle the situation. Over the next few days, my mother called 3 more times. Veronica sent me texts asking about the application process. My father even left a voicemail saying it would be good for me to help my sister, that family connections were important in business. Their sudden interest in my career would have been touching if it were not so transparently self-serving. I focused on my work instead. Patricia assigned me to a major implementation project for a national pharmaceutical company. The client wanted to migrate their entire data infrastructure to the cloud, and they needed it done within 6 months. The project was complex, high pressure, and exactly the kind of challenge I craved. I threw myself into it completely. I stayed late analyzing their existing systems. I mapped out migration strategies and risk assessments. I attended meetings with executives who treated my input with respect. I discovered that I was good at this work, better than I had realized. My technical skills were solid, but I also had an ability to translate complicated concepts into language that non-technical people could understand. Patricia noticed. After a particularly successful client presentation, she pulled me aside and told me I had a real future at Cloud Tech. She said the company valued people who could bridge the gap between technology and business. She mentioned that they were always looking for leadership potential. Those words meant more to me than any praise from my family ever had. 3 weeks after starting, I finally called my mother back. She answered on the first ring, clearly expecting news about Veronica. I told her I had spoken to human resources about openings. This was technically true. I had asked our recruiter about entry-level positions and requirements during a casual conversation. My mother asked what positions were available. I explained that most roles required either technical degrees or significant industry experience. Veronica had neither. My mother suggested that Veronica could start in an administrative role and work her way up. I pointed out that even administrative positions at Cloud Tech required specific qualifications and went through a competitive application process. The conversation grew tense. My mother said I was being difficult. She said I was letting my education go to my head. She said successful people help their families instead of making excuses. I felt my jaw tighten, felt that familiar frustration building. But I kept my voice calm. I told her that Veronica was welcome to apply through the normal channels. I gave her the website address. I said human resources reviewed all applications carefully. Then I ended the call before she could argue further. Veronica applied the next day. I knew because she sent me a screenshot of her application confirmation, along with a message asking when she should expect to hear back. I did not respond. I had not lied to my mother. Veronica could apply. Human resources would review her resume. They would see her lack of qualifications and reject her like they rejected hundreds of other unqualified candidates every week. I had not sabotaged her. I had simply refused to give her an unfair advantage. There was a difference, though I doubted my family would see it that way. The rejection email arrived in Veronica's inbox 4 days later. Standard response, polite but firm. No current openings matching her qualifications. They would keep her resume on file for future opportunities. She forwarded it to me with 3 angry paragraphs about how I had clearly not helped her at all. My mother called that evening. Her voice was cold, disappointed. She said she had expected more from me. She said family was supposed to support each other. She said Veronica was struggling, and I could have made one phone call to make a difference. I listened to the entire speech without interrupting, feeling nothing but a strange sort of relief. I told her that I had done exactly what I promised. Veronica had applied. Human resources had reviewed her application. The outcome was based on her qualifications, not my influence. My mother said I was being selfish. I said I was being professional. She hung up on me. I set my phone down and went back to work on my project documentation. I felt lighter somehow, as if refusing to play their game had lifted a weight I had been carrying for years. They wanted me to use my position to benefit them, without ever acknowledging how hard I had worked to get there. They wanted access to my success, without respecting the journey that had created it. I was done seeking their approval. I was done trying to earn their pride. I had built something for myself, and they could not have it just because we shared DNA. The pharmaceutical project consumed the next 2 months. I worked 60-hour weeks, coordinating with developers and database administrators and network engineers. I learned more in those 8 weeks than I had in 4 years of university. Patricia gave me increasing responsibility, letting me lead client meetings and make technical decisions that affected millions of dollars in infrastructure. The client loved our work. Their chief technology officer, a sharp woman named Diane, specifically praised my project management and communication skills. She told Patricia that I was the reason they felt confident in the migration. Patricia passed the compliment along with a knowing smile, saying I was exceeding all expectations for someone so early in their career. My parents did not call during this time. Veronica stopped texting. The silence was both liberating and lonely. I had built my entire identity around trying to earn their respect, and now that I had stopped trying, I did not know quite who I was supposed to be. My coworkers became my social circle. Patricia became something like a mentor. I started building a life that had nothing to do with my family. Then, in late July, everything shifted. Patricia called me into her office on a Thursday afternoon. She was smiling, which usually meant good news. She told me to close the door and sit down. My heart raced. Was I being promoted? Assigned to an even bigger project? Given a raise after only 3 months? Patricia said the pharmaceutical project had been a massive success. The client was so pleased that they had referred CloudTech to several other companies in their network. 3 new enterprise contracts had come in directly because of our work. The executive team had noticed. They wanted to recognize the people responsible. I waited, trying not to grin too widely. Patricia said they were creating a new position, Director of Enterprise Implementation. The role would oversee all major client projects, manage a team of implementation specialists, and report directly to the Vice President of Operations. The salary was $135,000 plus equity and bonuses. They wanted someone who understood both the technical and business sides, someone who could lead. They wanted me. I sat frozen, certain I had misheard. Director. After 3 months. At 26. Patricia laughed at my expression and confirmed that yes, they were serious. She said I had proven myself capable of handling complex projects and high-stakes clients. She said the executives had reviewed my work extensively and unanimously agreed I was the right choice. She said she had advocated strongly for me because she believed in my potential. The promotion was effective immediately. I would spend the next month transitioning into the role, hiring my team, and taking over existing projects. Patricia would support me through the adjustment. She shook my hand and welcomed me to leadership. I walked out of her office in a daze. I returned to my desk and stared at my computer screen without seeing it. I had worked so hard for so long, expecting nothing but small incremental gains. And now I was a director. I was making more than twice what I had expected at this point in my career. I was leading teams and shaping strategy. I had succeeded beyond anything my family had thought possible. My first instinct was to call my parents, to share the news, to finally get the recognition I had craved. But I stopped myself. They had made their position clear. They had dismissed my graduation. They had ignored my job offer. They had only reached out when they wanted something. Why would this be different? Instead, I called my college roommate, Julia, who screamed so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. I called my favorite professor, who congratulated me and said he had always known I would do extraordinary things. I texted my coworkers, who insisted on taking me out for dinner to celebrate. That night, sitting in a restaurant surrounded by people who genuinely cared about my success, I realized something important. I had spent years chasing validation from the wrong people. My family had never been going to give me what I needed because they had never valued what I could do. They had wanted me to fit into their world, and when I had refused, they had written me off. But I had found my own world. I had found people who saw my worth. I had built something real and valuable and entirely mine. The emptiness I had felt at graduation was gone, replaced by something stronger: pride, confidence, self-respect. I did not need my family's approval anymore because I had my own. 2 weeks into my new role, my mother called. I was in a meeting, so I let it go to voicemail. She did not leave a message. She called again the next day, and the day after that. Finally, I answered during my lunch break. Her voice was different, uncertain. She said she had heard from a friend whose daughter worked at Cloud Tech that I had gotten a big promotion. She said she was calling to congratulate me. She said she was proud. The words felt empty, performative. Too little, too late. I thanked her politely. I did not elaborate on my new role. I did not share details about my team or my salary or my responsibilities. I kept the conversation brief and professional. My mother tried to extend it, asking questions about the company and my work. I gave short, vague answers. Then she mentioned Veronica again. She said my sister was still looking for opportunities. She said maybe now that I was in a leadership position I could help. She said having a director in the family meant we should all benefit. There it was, the real reason for the call. They did not care about my promotion. They cared about what it could do for them. I felt anger flash through me, hot and sharp. But underneath it was something colder. Determination. They wanted to use me. They wanted access to my success without ever acknowledging my worth. They wanted me to hand my sister opportunities she had not earned. I told my mother I would think about it. The lie came easily now. I had no intention of helping Veronica, but I was curious to see how far they would push, how much they would ask for without ever giving anything in return. The answer, I discovered, was quite far indeed. Over the next 3 weeks, the requests escalated. First, my mother asked if I could review Veronica's resume and provide feedback. I agreed, then sent back a list of honest corrections that Veronica ignored. Then my father called, suggesting that Veronica could work as my assistant. I explained that directors did not have personal assistants, and even if they did, the role would require someone with project management experience. He said I was overthinking things. He said Veronica just needed exposure to the corporate world. He said I was in a position to help and should take advantage of it. The hypocrisy was staggering. The same man who had mocked my degree was now telling me to leverage my position for family benefit. I told him I would consider it, knowing I would do no such thing. Then Veronica herself called. Her voice was sharp, entitled. She said she had been struggling for months while I sat in my fancy office doing nothing to help. She said real sisters supported each other. She said I owed her because family came first. I asked what she had done to support me when I was working 3 jobs to pay for college. She said that was different. I asked how. She hung up. My mother called back an hour later to scold me for upsetting Veronica. She said I was being cruel. She said my success had changed me. She said I used to be a sweet girl who cared about family. I almost laughed. I had always cared about family. They had never cared about me. But I kept my voice neutral. I said I was simply being realistic about corporate hiring practices. My mother said there were always ways around the rules for people who mattered. I said I would not compromise my professional integrity. She said I was being dramatic. The conversation ended badly. I sat in my office afterward, staring out at the Seattle skyline, feeling something shift inside me. They were never going to stop. They were never going to respect my boundaries or acknowledge my accomplishments. They were going to keep pushing and demanding and expecting me to sacrifice my career for their convenience, unless I gave them a reason to stop. An idea began forming. Dangerous, perhaps. Definitely petty. But satisfying in a way I had not felt in years. They wanted access to cloud tech. They wanted me to use my position to help Veronica. What if I did exactly that, but not in the way they expected? I spent the weekend researching and planning. Cloud Tech had a robust internship program for career changers. 3-month paid positions designed to give people from non-technical backgrounds exposure to the tech industry. The program was intensive, demanding, and had a 30% completion rate. Those who finished often got hired into entry-level positions. Those who did not finish left with a clear understanding that technology was not their calling. The program was perfect, competitive enough to seem legitimate, difficult enough to expose Veronica's lack of commitment. I could genuinely recommend her for it, and what happened after that would be entirely up to her work ethic. On Monday morning, I called my mother. I told her I had been thinking about Veronica's situation. I said I might have found something that could work. My mother's excitement was immediate and overwhelming. I explained the internship program, emphasizing that it was highly competitive, but that I could recommend Veronica as a candidate. My mother asked if that meant Veronica would definitely get in. I said my recommendation carried weight, but she would still need to interview and meet the program requirements. My mother asked what those requirements were. I listed them: bachelor's degree in any field, basic computer skills, willingness to learn, and ability to commit to the full 3 months. My mother said Veronica met all those criteria. I had my doubts about the last two, but I kept that to myself. I said I would submit the recommendation, and Veronica should prepare for an interview. My mother thanked me profusely, saying she knew I would come through for family. The irony was not lost on me. I submitted the recommendation that afternoon. I was honest in my assessment, noting that Veronica had a business background and was looking to transition into technology. I mentioned that she was my sister, wanting full transparency. The program coordinator, a friendly man named Trevor, thanked me for the referral and said they would reach out to schedule an interview. Veronica's interview was scheduled for the following week. My mother called twice to ask what Veronica should say. I told her to be herself and show enthusiasm for learning. In reality, the interviews were designed to assess motivation and coachability. They wanted people who could admit what they did not know and showed genuine interest in growing. Veronica had never been good at either of those things. The interview lasted 30 minutes. Veronica called me immediately afterward, breathless with excitement. She said it had gone perfectly. She said they loved her. She said she was sure she would get the position. I congratulated her and said we would see. The acceptance email arrived 3 days later. Veronica was in. She would start the first week of September. The internship paid $25 per hour and required 40 hours per week. She would be assigned to a rotation program, spending time with different teams to learn various aspects of cloud technology. My family was ecstatic. My mother called to thank me repeatedly. My father sent a rare text message saying I had done the right thing. Veronica posted on social media about her exciting new opportunity at a major tech company, carefully phrasing it to sound more impressive than an internship actually was. I watched it all unfold with detached amusement. They thought I had given in. They thought I had finally put family first. They had no idea what was actually coming. The internship program was designed by people who understood that technology required dedication, problem-solving skills, and intellectual humility. The first week was orientation, introducing interns to cloud computing concepts, company culture, and professional expectations. The second week placed them with their first team rotation. By the third week, they were expected to contribute meaningfully to projects. Veronica lasted exactly 11 days. I did not interfere with her experience. I did not check on her progress or speak to her supervisors. I wanted her outcome to be entirely her own doing. But I heard things anyway. Cloud tech was not that large, and people talked, especially when an intern was related to a director. The first complaints came during orientation. Veronica arrived late twice, blaming traffic despite living only 20 minutes away. She spent considerable time on her phone during training sessions. She asked if the lectures were really necessary since she already understood business. The orientation leader, a patient woman named Keisha, noted all of this in her evaluation. The first rotation placed Veronica with the infrastructure team. They were responsible for maintaining server networks and ensuring system reliability. It was technical work that required attention to detail and willingness to learn complex systems. Veronica was assigned to shadow a senior engineer named David, who had a reputation for being thorough and kind with newcomers. David tried. I heard about it from Patricia, who heard it from David's manager. He explained concepts carefully. He answered questions without judgment. He gave Veronica simple tasks to build her confidence. She responded by complaining that the work was boring. She said she had expected something more creative. She said she did not understand why she needed to learn about servers when she was more of a people person. David suggested she might prefer a rotation with the client relations team. Veronica brightened at that idea. She was transferred after only 4 days with infrastructure. The client relations team was responsible for maintaining relationships with existing customers, troubleshooting issues, and identifying expansion opportunities. It required technical knowledge, excellent communication skills, and genuine interest in solving problems. Veronica lasted 3 days there. The client relations manager, a sharp woman named Angela, was less patient than David. When Veronica showed up 30 minutes late on her first day, Angela noted it. When Veronica spent a client call checking her email, Angela addressed it directly. When Veronica suggested that she should focus on social media marketing instead of technical support, Angela scheduled a meeting with Trevor from the internship program. I learned about this meeting because Trevor came to me directly. He looked uncomfortable, sitting across from my desk with Veronica's evaluation file. He said he wanted to give me a heads up as a courtesy since Veronica was my sister. He said the program was not working out. He listed the issues: attendance problems, lack of engagement, unwillingness to learn technical concepts, inappropriate behavior during client interactions. I asked what would happen next. Trevor said they would have one final conversation with Veronica, outlining clear expectations and consequences. If she could not meet those expectations, she would be dismissed from the program. He apologized for the situation. I told him not to apologize. I said I appreciated the program giving her a fair chance, and whatever happened next was based on her own choices. Trevor looked relieved. He thanked me for understanding and left. I sat alone in my office, feeling a strange mixture of satisfaction and sadness. I had known this would happen. I had counted on it even. But there was something melancholy about watching someone fail so predictably. The final conversation happened the next morning. Trevor and Angela met with Veronica to discuss her performance. They were clear and direct. She needed to arrive on time. She needed to engage with the training. She needed to show respect for the learning process. If she could not do these things, the internship would end. Veronica called me during my lunch break, furious. She said they were being unfair. She said the work was beneath her abilities. She said they were targeting her because she was not some computer nerd. She said I needed to intervene and tell them to back off. I asked if she had been arriving on time. Silence. I asked if she had been paying attention during training. She said the training was boring. I asked if she had tried to learn from the people assigned to teach her. She said they did not understand her strengths. I told her that the internship required certain behaviors, and she needed to decide if she wanted to meet those expectations. Veronica said I was supposed to be on her side. I said I was being honest with her. She hung up on me. She lasted 2 more days. On the 13th day of her internship, Veronica arrived 45 minutes late, offered no apology, and spent the morning complaining loudly about how technical work was not for everyone. Angela dismissed her before lunch. The termination was professional and documented. Veronica was paid for her time and escorted out by security, standard procedure for all departing employees. I was in a meeting when it happened. I learned about it an hour later when my mother called, screaming. She said I had sabotaged Veronica. She said I had set her up to fail. She said I had humiliated the family. I let her rant for several minutes before speaking. I said I had recommended Veronica for a legitimate program. I said she had been given the same orientation and support as every other intern. I said her dismissal was based on her own behavior, documented by multiple supervisors. My mother said I could have protected her. I asked why Veronica needed protection from basic professional expectations. My mother called me ungrateful. She said after everything they had done for me, I owed them more. I asked what exactly they had done for me. I asked if they had come to my graduation. I asked if they had congratulated me on my job offer. I asked if they had ever supported my career before they wanted something from it. The silence on the other end of the phone lasted several seconds. Then my mother said that was different. I asked how. She said I was being vindictive and bringing up old grudges. I said I was being honest about a pattern of behavior that had existed my entire life. My father got on the phone. His voice was cold, authoritative. He said I had disappointed them. He said family was supposed to help each other succeed, not tear each other down. He said I had deliberately put Veronica in a position where she would fail. I told him that was not true. I had given her an opportunity that hundreds of qualified candidates competed for. What she did with that opportunity was her choice. He said I was splitting hairs. He said I knew Veronica was not technical and should have found her something more suitable. I said there was nothing more suitable at a technology company for someone with no technology skills or interest. He said I could have created something. I asked if he meant I should have invented a fake job for my sister at the company I was trying to build credibility with. He said I was being difficult. I said I was being professional. He said professionalism without loyalty meant nothing. I said loyalty without respect was worthless. He told me not to come home for Sunday dinner until I was ready to apologize. I said that would not be a problem since I had not been invited to Sunday dinner in 6 months anyway. Then I hung up. I sat in my office, hands shaking slightly. I had just burned bridges with my entire family. They would tell everyone who would listen that I was selfish, that I had abandoned my sister, that success had made me cruel. They would paint themselves as victims and me as the villain. Part of me felt sick about it, but a larger part felt free. Patricia knocked on my door an hour later. She had heard about Veronica's dismissal and wanted to check on me. I assured her I was fine. She said she was proud of how I had handled the situation, maintaining professional boundaries even when it was personally difficult. She said that kind of integrity was rare and valuable. Her words meant more than any approval from my parents ever had. The next few weeks were tense. My phone filled with messages from extended family members, people I had not heard from in years suddenly concerned about family unity. My aunt said I should have been more patient with Veronica. My uncle said young people needed more support these days. My cousin said I was lucky to be smart and should help those who were not. I blocked most of them. I kept my focus on work, on my team, on building something that mattered. Cloud tech was thriving. My department was exceeding targets. I was hiring talented people and creating systems that would scale as the company grew. I was good at this. I belonged here. Then, in early October, something unexpected happened. I was meeting with a potential client, a major renewable energy company looking to overhaul their data infrastructure. The CEO was a woman named Victoria, sharp and no-nonsense. We spent 2 hours discussing their needs and our capabilities. The meeting went well. Victoria seemed impressed with our approach and my team's expertise. As we were wrapping up, Victoria mentioned that she had heard good things about cloud tech from several sources. One of them, she said, was a friend in the pharmaceutical industry. Diane, the CTO from my first major project. Victoria said Diane had specifically praised my work and recommended that if Victoria needed implementation support, she should ask for me by name. I felt warmth spread through my chest. This was what real professional relationships looked like. People who respected your work and advocated for you based on merit. People who saw your value and wanted others to benefit from it. Victoria's company signed with us the following week. The contract was worth $3.2 million over 2 years. It was the largest deal my department had closed. The executive team was thrilled. Patricia recommended me for a bonus. I received a company-wide email recognition from the CEO. My parents never acknowledged it. I had not expected them to. But something else happened that I had not expected. Veronica reached out, not through a call or text, but through a LinkedIn message, professional, impersonal. She said she wanted to apologize for how things had ended at Cloud Tech. She said she had not been ready for that environment and had reacted poorly. She said she hoped we could move past it. I stared at the message for a long time. It sounded genuine, but I had learned to be suspicious of my family's motives. I responded carefully, saying I appreciated her reaching out and hoped she found a career path that suited her strengths. I kept it brief and neutral. She replied immediately. She said she had actually found something. She was working at my father's construction company, in the office managing schedules and client communications. It was going well. She said she realized she was better suited to the family business than to technology. I congratulated her and left it at that. I did not trust this sudden maturity, but I also did not have the energy to analyze it. I had my own life to focus on. November brought new challenges. Cloud Tech was expanding rapidly, and my department was struggling to keep up with demand. We needed more people, better processes, and clearer strategic direction. I spent long hours interviewing candidates, redesigning workflows, and presenting growth plans to executives. It was exhausting and exhilarating. I was building something from the ground up, creating systems that would support hundreds of implementations. I was mentoring new directors and shaping company culture. I was 26 years old and running a department that generated tens of millions in revenue. My parents still did not call. Veronica stopped messaging. The silence from my family was complete. Sometimes I missed them, missed the idea of what a family should be. But mostly I felt relieved. I had spent so much energy trying to earn their approval that I had never stopped to question whether their approval was worth having. Then, the week before Thanksgiving, my mother called. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. Her voice was different, smaller. She said she wanted to invite me to Thanksgiving dinner. She said it had been too long since we had all been together. She said family was important, especially during the holidays. I waited for the other shoe to drop, for the request or the guilt trip or the criticism. It did not come. She just asked if I would come. Please. I said I would think about it. After we hung up, I sat with the decision for several days. Part of me wanted to refuse, to maintain the boundaries I had finally established. Part of me wondered if maybe they had learned something, if maybe there was a chance for something different. I decided to go, not because I owed them anything, but because I wanted to see for myself if anything had actually changed. I would go with clear eyes and realistic expectations. I would not hope for miracles or apologies. I would simply observe. Thanksgiving dinner was at my parents' house in Portland, the same dining room where I had eaten 1,000 meals while feeling invisible. I arrived exactly on time, carrying a bottle of wine I had carefully selected. My mother answered the door with a smile that seemed genuine, though I remained cautious. The house looked the same. Family photos lined the hallway, and I noticed what I had always known but never let myself fully acknowledge. I appeared in significantly fewer pictures than Veronica. The photos that included me were mostly group shots where I stood at the edge, easily cropped out. Veronica was centered, smiling, the obvious favorite. I felt nothing looking at them now. Just observation, no pain. Dinner started pleasantly enough. My father asked about work in vague terms, not really listening to my answers. Veronica talked about her role at the construction company, how she was learning the business and helping modernize their client management system. My mother praised her constantly, saying how wonderful it was to have her nearby and involved in the family business. I ate my turkey and sweet potatoes and waited. There had to be a reason for this invitation beyond holiday spirit. My family did not do things without purpose. Dessert arrived, pumpkin pie and coffee. My mother brought out a second bottle of wine. Then my father cleared his throat, the sound he always made before important announcements. I set down my fork and waited. He said they had been doing a lot of thinking lately. He said family was important and they regretted how things had unfolded over the past few months. He said they wanted to make amends and move forward together. I nodded, still waiting for the actual point. My mother took over. She said they had a proposition. The construction company was doing well, expanding into commercial development projects. They were at a point where they needed to modernize their operations, implement better technology systems, upgrade their infrastructure. They needed someone who understood both business and technology. They wanted to hire me. I sat very still, processing. This was not an apology. This was another request. They had invited me here, pretended to want reconciliation, just to ask for my expertise. Again. My father explained the offer. I would be director of operations and technology. I would oversee the implementation of new systems while learning the construction business. Eventually, I would take over the company alongside Veronica. It was a family legacy, he said, an opportunity to build something together. The salary would match what I was making at Cloud Tech, plus profit sharing and guaranteed ownership stake. Veronica jumped in, enthusiastic. She said it would be amazing to work together. She said we could finally be a real team. She said the company needed fresh ideas, and I was perfect for it. My mother nodded along, saying how wonderful it would be to have both daughters building the family future. They all looked at me expectantly, clearly anticipating acceptance. They had planned this carefully, timing the invitation and the offer to maximize emotional impact. They thought I would be touched by the inclusion, grateful for the opportunity, eager to finally be part of the family business. They had no idea who I actually was. I took a sip of wine, letting the silence stretch. Then I asked a simple question. Why now? My father said they had realized family was more important than pride. I asked why I had not been important 6 months ago, or a year ago, or at any point in my entire life before I had something they needed. The temperature in the room dropped. My mother said that was unfair. I asked what part was unfair. I listed facts, no emotion, just timeline. They had skipped my graduation. They had dismissed my job offer. They had only contacted me to demand I help Veronica. When that had not worked out, they had blamed me and cut contact. Now they needed technology expertise, and suddenly I was family again. Veronica said I was being dramatic. I turned to her directly. I asked if she remembered our last conversation before the internship, when she had said I owed her because family came first. I asked if she remembered hanging up on me when I had asked what she had ever done to support my education. I asked if she had any awareness of how one-sided this relationship had always been. She looked away. My father said I was dwelling on the past. I said the past was the only evidence I had of their actual priorities. My mother said people could change. I agreed that people could change. I asked for evidence that they had. My father's face was turning red, a sign I recognized from childhood. He said I was being disrespectful. I said I was being honest. He said I should be grateful they were offering me an opportunity. I said they should be grateful I had agreed to come to dinner. The conversation was spiraling exactly where I had known it would. They did not want reconciliation. They wanted compliance. They wanted access to my skills and my connections and my success, all while maintaining the same dynamic where my value was purely utilitarian. I stood up from the table. My mother asked where I was going. I said I was leaving because this dinner had confirmed what I already knew. They did not see me as a person with my own life and goals. They saw me as a resource to be leveraged when convenient and ignored when not. Veronica said I was being selfish. That word again. Selfish. I had heard it so many times, always deployed when I dared to prioritize my own needs or protect my own boundaries. I turned to face her directly. I told her that selfishness required taking more than your share. I asked what I had taken from her. I had paid for my own education while she had gotten hers funded by our parents. I had worked multiple jobs while she had lived rent-free at home. I had built my career through my own effort while she had expected doors to open simply because she was family. Where exactly had I been selfish? She had no answer. My father told me to sit down. I remained standing. He said if I walked out that door, I was choosing career over family. I said I was choosing respect over dysfunction. He said I would regret this decision. I said the only thing I regretted was wasting so many years seeking approval from people who were never going to give it. My mother started crying. Calculated tears, designed to manipulate. She said she did not understand where this anger was coming from. I told her it was not anger. It was clarity. I had finally stopped confusing obligation with love, stopped mistaking tolerance for acceptance. They had taught me that family was supposed to support each other, but they had never applied that standard to themselves. I walked to the door. My father called after me, his voice sharp. He said I was making a mistake. He said I would come crawling back when I realized I needed them. He said blood was thicker than water, and I could not run from family forever. I turned back one last time. I told him he was right about blood being thicker than water, but he had the quote wrong. The full phrase was, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb." It meant that chosen bonds were stronger than biological ones. I had chosen Cloud Tech. I had chosen Patricia and my team and the life I was building. I was not running from family. I was running toward people who actually valued me. Then I left. I drove back to Seattle through the dark, feeling lighter with every mile. I had gone to that dinner hoping for change and received confirmation instead. They would never see me differently, because they did not want to. They wanted a version of me that existed to serve their needs. And when I refused to be that person, I became the villain in their story. I could live with that. I had spent my whole life trying to be the daughter they wanted. Now I was going to be the woman I actually was. The fallout was immediate and predictable. My mother called twice the next day. I did not answer. My father sent a long email listing all the ways I had disappointed them, how I had wasted their time and goodwill, how I would understand when I was older. I deleted it without finishing. Veronica posted vague social media messages about loyalty and betrayal. I blocked her accounts. Extended family reached out again, more urgent this time. My aunt said I was tearing the family apart. I replied that I was simply refusing to hold together something that had never included me properly. My uncle said I would regret burning bridges. I said some bridges deserved to burn. My cousin said everyone made mistakes and I should be more forgiving. I asked which mistakes I had made that required forgiveness. Nobody had a good answer for that. I threw myself back into work. The renewable energy project was entering its critical phase. Victoria's team was depending on us to migrate their systems before year-end. I coordinated across 5 different technical teams, managed daily client communications, and troubleshot problems as they emerged. It was intense and demanding and exactly what I needed. Patricia noticed I was working even longer hours than usual. She pulled me aside in mid-December and asked if everything was okay. I told her about Thanksgiving, about the job offer, and the confrontation, and the final break with my family. I expected sympathy or awkward platitudes. Instead, Patricia told me a story. She said when she had started her career 25 years earlier, her family had expected her to work in their restaurant business. They had immigrant parents who had sacrificed everything, and a clear expectation that children would honor that sacrifice by continuing the family legacy. Patricia had wanted to study computer science instead. Her family had been furious. They had called her ungrateful and selfish and said she was abandoning her heritage. She had gone anyway. She had put herself through school and built her career, and yes, her family had eventually come around. But it had taken years. And in those years of estrangement, she had learned something important. You could not live someone else's dream of your life. She said I had made the right choice. She said family that only valued you for what you could provide was not actually family. She said I was going to be fine. I believed her. Over the next few weeks, I felt the weight I had been carrying start to lift. I stopped checking my phone obsessively for messages from my parents. I stopped rehearsing conversations in my head where I finally made them understand. I stopped hoping for a version of them that did not exist. The renewable energy project completed successfully on December 20th. Victoria sent a personal thank you email praising the team's work and specifically mentioning my leadership. The client recommended us to 2 other companies in their industry network. My department closed the year having exceeded revenue targets by 18%. The executive team rewarded my performance with a significant bonus and another promotion. Senior Director of Enterprise Solutions, expanded team, larger budget, direct involvement in company strategy. At 26, I was the youngest senior director in cloud tech history. The announcement went out company-wide 2 days before Christmas. I spent Christmas alone in my Seattle apartment, and it was peaceful. I cooked myself a nice dinner. I video called Julia and other friends. I watched movies and read a book I had been meaning to finish. I did not miss the tension of family gatherings or the constant feeling of being judged and found wanting. On December 28th, I received a LinkedIn message from an unexpected source. Diane, the pharmaceutical company CTO from my first project. She said she had been following my career progression and was impressed. Her company was looking for a vice president of technology implementation. Would I be interested in discussing it? I stared at the message in shock. Vice president. At a Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company. It would be an enormous leap, even bigger than what I had already accomplished. The role would oversee all technology projects across the enterprise, managing a team of over 50 people, reporting directly to the Chief Information Officer. I responded that I would be very interested in learning more. We scheduled a call for the first week of January. I did not tell anyone at CloudTech yet, not even Patricia. I needed to understand the opportunity first. The call with Diane lasted 90 minutes. She was direct about what they needed. Someone who could bridge technical and business contexts, manage complex projects, build and lead large teams, and handle high-pressure situations with executive stakeholders. She asked about my experience, my management philosophy, my career goals. I answered honestly, drawing on everything I had learned over the past 8 months. At the end of the call, Diane said she wanted to move forward with a formal interview process. There would be multiple rounds, meetings with executives, presentations to leadership teams. It would take several weeks. I thanked her and said I looked forward to it. After we hung up, I sat in my office feeling something I had not felt in a long time. Pure excitement about my future. Not anxiety about proving myself or fear of disappointing anyone. Just genuine enthusiasm about possibilities. The interview process was rigorous. I met with the Chief Information Officer, the Chief Operating Officer, and eventually the CEO. I prepared presentations on technology strategy and implementation methodologies. I answered questions about team building and change management and scalability. Every person I met with was sharp, demanding, and genuinely interested in my capabilities. In early February, they made an offer. Vice President of Technology Implementation. Salary of $215,000, plus equity and performance bonuses. Relocation assistance if I wanted to move closer to their headquarters. Full benefits and executive perks. Start date of March 1st. I accepted immediately. Then I scheduled a meeting with Patricia to give my notice. She took the news gracefully, congratulating me while admitting she would miss working with me. She said she had known I was destined for bigger things. She offered to be a reference any time I needed one. I thanked her for everything she had taught me, for seeing my potential when my own family had not. My last day at Cloud Tech was February 25th. My team threw a small goodbye gathering in the conference room. People shared stories about projects we had completed together. Several team members said I had been the best manager they had ever worked for. Trevor from the internship program made a joke about how at least one person from my family had benefited from my time at Cloud Tech, even if briefly. Everyone laughed, even me. The Veronica situation had become office legend, a story about maintaining professional standards even under personal pressure. What had felt painful at the time had become evidence of my integrity. I thought about my family during my drive to the pharmaceutical company headquarters for my first day. I wondered if they knew about my new position. I had not told them, but the professional world was surprisingly small. Someone might have mentioned it. I wondered if they felt any regret about how they had treated me, about the opportunities they had missed to actually know who I was. Then I stopped wondering. It did not matter anymore. They had made their choices. I had made mine. I was building a life based on merit and respect and chosen relationships. I was surrounding myself with people who valued competence and integrity. I was creating my own definition of success, one that had nothing to do with their approval. My first month as vice president was challenging and rewarding. I inherited projects in crisis and teams with low morale. I spent long days understanding systems, meeting with stakeholders, and building relationships. I implemented new processes and restructured workflows and coached managers on leadership principles. Slowly, things began improving. In late March, I received an unexpected email. It was from Veronica, sent to my personal account rather than LinkedIn. The subject line said, "I'm sorry." I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won. The email was longer than I expected. Veronica said she had been doing a lot of thinking since Thanksgiving. She said she had finally started therapy and was working through some things. She said she realized she had treated me terribly for most of our lives, had taken me for granted, and resented me for succeeding where she had struggled. She said our parents had always compared them, and she had handled it by dismissing my achievements rather than addressing her own insecurities. She said she did not expect forgiveness. She just wanted me to know that she saw it now, saw how unfair she had been. She hoped I was doing well and said she was genuinely proud of what I had accomplished. I read the email 3 times. It sounded sincere, more self-aware than anything Veronica had ever said to me. But I also knew that words were easy. Change was hard. Therapy was a good start, but it did not erase years of behavior. I wrote back briefly. I said I appreciated her honesty and was glad she was working on herself. I wished her well. I did not offer reconciliation or suggest meeting up. I simply acknowledged her message and left it at that. Maybe someday we could have some kind of relationship. Maybe not. Either way, I would be fine. My family never apologized. My father doubled down on his position that I had betrayed them. My mother continued to send occasional messages saying she missed me, though she never acknowledged what had actually happened or why I had left. They told relatives I had chosen career over family, painting themselves as the injured parties. I heard through mutual connections that my father's construction company continued to struggle with modernization. Without my expertise, they were falling behind competitors who had better technology systems. They eventually hired a consulting firm at 3 times what my salary would have cost, and the consultants implemented changes similar to what I would have recommended. The irony was not lost on me. They had been willing to pay strangers for help they had demanded I provide for free, simply because we shared DNA. My career continued to flourish. Within a year, I had transformed the technology implementation department at the pharmaceutical company. We completed a major digital transformation project that saved the company $12 million annually. I was promoted again. Executive Vice President. Corner office. Seat at leadership tables where company direction was decided. I bought a house. I traveled internationally for work. I mentored young women entering technology fields. I built genuine friendships with colleagues who became like family. I dated someone kind and supportive who respected my ambitions. I created a life that was entirely my own. Looking back, I understood that the revenge was not in Veronica's failed internship, or the confrontation at Thanksgiving, or my family's disappointment. The revenge was in living well. It was in building success they could not claim credit for or access. It was in proving that their approval had never been necessary. They had dismissed my potential and my worth, and I had gone on to exceed every expectation anyway. Sometimes the best revenge is not elaborate schemes or public humiliation. Sometimes it is simply becoming so successful that the people who underestimated you have to watch from a distance, knowing they could have been part of your story but chose not to be. My family had to live with the knowledge that they had rejected me when I had needed support, and I had thrived without them. That was consequence enough. As I stood in my office overlooking the city on a spring afternoon, 5 years after that lonely graduation ceremony, I felt no anger toward my family, no bitterness, just peace. They had taught me an important lesson, though not the one they had intended. They had taught me that I did not need their validation to be valuable. They had taught me to build my own definition of success. They had taught me that sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you are born into. I had stopped chasing their approval and started earning my own. That shift had changed everything.